Dear guests, please take your seats. Our meeting will start in a few minutes. Okay. So there will be Chinese speakers. So if you don't understand Chinese, so you please take your earphones. And English to Chinese will be channel 1 for spontaneous interpretation. Channel 1 will be Chinese, and channel 2 will be English. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. It's our pleasure to welcome you to the China-Brazil Partnership on Climate Change Promotion Green Value Chain side events on COP28. This is a side event organized by WWF China and Brazil. I'm Michelle from China Meat Association. I'm in charge of international communication and cooperation in our association. And I have been working and cooperating together with WWF China since the year 2016 on the project of deforestation free. So it is also my greatest honor to moderate this meeting. Global value chains have contributed to China's historic economic growth, and green value chains can enhance the security of goods supply, rebuild mutual trust in global goods trade, and fill the current gap in global governance through shared actions and goals among suppliers, traders, buyers, exporters, and importers. So today, we will discuss the hot topic and share insights with all speakers. So before the formal meeting, I'd also like to remind all the speakers that we have a very tight schedule and limited time today. So please, to be sure, you are punctual on the regulated time. There will be also a reminder from our staff and to show how many minutes your speech will be left. So please just see the signals when our staff just show stop. So we are sorry for that. You have to finish your speech as possible as you could. And also forgive me my sore throat if give you any bad experience in the conference. Okay, so let's start our formal meeting. So firstly, let's welcome the Director General of WWF International, Kirsten Schut, to give the opening remarks for us. Let's welcome.
Thank you so much. I hope you can all hear me. Good. It's great to see so many people here in this room. It's to me, I just came out of a lunch meeting that was about food and finance, and now I'm in a meeting that's talking about Brazil and China. And to me, these are the most exciting conversations when we link and when we cross borders and find ways to collaborate. And what a wonderful guest. How cute. Great. Welcome as well. It's good to see young people in our conversations. So I just wanted to say a few things more as an introduction. To achieve the Paris Agreement, the food and land sectors obviously play a critical part, and we often forget how important food is when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions. In fact, about 1/3 of the greenhouse gas emissions are being caused by the food systems, but also with respect to biodiversity conservation. So about 80% of the causes of biodiversity loss are being caused by food systems. And so if we want to get emissions to be limited to 1.5, contributing to 1.5 degrees, we need to reduce emissions from food systems by about 80%. So that's just in a nutshell how important food is when it comes to both agendas, the climate agenda and the biodiversity conservation agenda. And of course, to effectively reduce greenhouse gas emissions, immediate actions is required to eliminate deforestation and conversion from commodity supply chains. So there's a lot of carbon that's being stored in soils and in plants and in trees that we cannot afford to emit into the atmosphere because it will only make things 1,000 times worse. And soy and beef production significantly contribute to deforestation and the conversion of natural habitats including many of the tropical rainforests that we deeply care about, whether it's the Amazon or whether it's Congo Basin or Borneo, who are the 3 biggest tropical rainforests in the world. The combined natural habitat conversion from these 2 commodities, meat and soy, accounts for approximately 40% of emissions from agricultural land conversion and roughly 10% of emissions, total emissions of the food systems. And of course, China and Brazil are key partners when it comes to these 2 commodities. Soybeans hold a prominent position in Brazil's export portfolio, and China is a really important trading partner when it comes to soy. Brazil is known as the largest meat exporter, and the Chinese market represents a significant portion of Brazilian export revenue. And so all this is to say that the need for collaboration between these 2 countries is incredibly important. And the collaboration between China and Brazil, guided by a shared responsibility, a mutual understanding, a mutual trust between these 2 countries, may actually lead the world towards a more sustainable global food system. I think if we can figure it out between these 2 superpowers when it comes to superpowers on so many fronts, not just the economy, but also I think leadership on sustainability, on mitigating climate change, on biodiversity conservation, I think we can really move towards a more healthier planet and a sustainable future for many, including younger generations sitting here in the audience. And so I want to thank you again for joining us, and I really look forward to the conversation and the dialogue between you all. Thank you.
So many thanks for Kirsten for your opening remarks. And the next opening speaker is the Director General of Foreign Environmental Cooperation Center, Ministry of Environment and the Economic of China, Zhang Yunjun. Let's welcome.
So I will speak in Chinese. I will give you a few seconds to change the earset. Okay. 尊敬的科斯汀总干事，各位同事，各位朋友，女士们、先生们，大家下午好。非常荣幸啊，参加这次 COP28 的中国巴西应对气候变化绿色价值链合作专场的编会。首先呢，我仅代表生态环境部对外合作与交流中心啊，对世界自然基金会成功举办此次活动啊表示祝贺。OK 啊，好，我大声一点啊。气候变化是全球面临的共同挑战，应对气候变化关系人类前途和命运。世界气象组织的数据显示啊，2015到2022年，是有记录以来最暖的8年。干旱、洪水和热浪影响了各大洲，造成了数十亿美元的损失。联合国环境规划署发布的最新报告也显示，2021年到2022年间，全球温室气体排放量增加了1.2%，达到了破纪录的574亿吨二氧化碳当量。在气候适应方面呢，全球每年仍在面临着1940亿到3660亿美元的资金缺口。面对气候危机，本次 COP28 大会啊，积极延续并深化共同落实主题，以首次全球盘点为契机，发出了聚焦行动、加强合作的积极信号。中国一贯高度重视应对气候变化工作。近年来，中国坚持绿色低碳高质量发展，做出了碳达峰、碳中和的庄严承诺。同时呢，中国也高度重视生态保护和气候变化的协同。就在 这个大会今天上午中国正式宣布加入自然与人类高雄新联盟。中国和巴西作为东西半球最有代表性的新兴市场国家，近年来经贸合作蒸蒸日上巴西成为拉美首个对华贸易突破1000亿美元的国家。与此同时，中国和巴西也是东西半球最大的发展中国家，一直在环境和气候领域的多边进程中保持着良好的沟通和协调。中巴两国也面临着相似的国内环境挑战。今年呢是中国与巴西环境与气候合作的一个大年，中巴共同发布了中国巴西应对气候变化联合声明，成立了中国巴西高层协调与合作委员会，环境和气候变化分委会召开了第一次的分委会会议，确定并签署了分委会的工作安排文件。下一步呢，也对这个未来中巴气候与绿色价值链合作提出几点建议一是这个利用好中巴环境与气候分委会合作机制，凝聚合作共识，共同谋划并推进气候变化与绿色发展合作。第二呢是加强政策科学商业对话，通过政府、私营部门、国际组织、行业协会等在内的不同利益相关方共同参与，形成强大合力，共同构建起中巴应对气候变化与绿色价值链的合作网络。第三呢是推进南支持共享合作，加强中国与巴西双方应对气候变化与绿色价值链解决方案和区域智慧的这个多重的互动，共同成长，共享收获。好，谢谢大家。
Thanks to Mr. Zhang. And the next speaker is Mr. Hani Hajo. He is the head of Department of Deforestation and Fire Control Policies from Ministry of Environment of Brazil. So let's welcome Hani.
Good evening. It's indeed a pleasure to be here with you, and especially discussing a topic of such importance. Brazil and China, they are great partners, historical partners in trade, and we firmly believe that we can more and more become climate leaders together. And for two main reasons here. Of course, there is an issue of how to strengthen our mutual national policies. Brazil wants and have a very ambitious climate policy. It intends to reduce deforestation in absolute ways by 40% by 2030. And in order to do that, it's really crucial that we reduce significantly deforestation. And right now, we have already, in this new government, thanks to the plans we have been developed and putting in place, reduced by 50% deforestation in the Amazon from January to November in relation to last year. But of course, in order to keep lowering deforestation, we need actions and we need to strengthen, on the one side, the good farmers, those that are producing sustainably, and make sure that those that are with illegal deforestation are not able to place their produce on the market. In order for that to happen, it's important to work on both sides, not only on the side of the government, which is, of course, working harder and harder to cut off and make sure those farmers are eventually punished, embargoed, etc., but also on the side of the companies who need to more strictly adhere and observe more strictly what of the policies of the government, also what's the situation of individual farms. Because as it is, about 20% of the soy produced in the Amazon and the Cerrado are linked to some level of illegal deforestation. And of course, it means that about 80% of the soy produced in the two regions with most deforestation are completely legal with any trace of illegal deforestation, but we have that 1/5 that needs to be strengthened. The second point, it goes beyond the more preeminent issues of being climate champion and showing to the world we can do the right thing. It has to do with food security. We already know that all over the world, food production is being hit hard by climate change. And specifically in the case of Brazil, we are having a double effect. Not only climate change are changing the rainfall regime significantly, but also local deforestation is changing the rainfall regime. In the Amazon, we have already lost about a month of rainfall season, of the wet season. And in the Cerrado, we have lost a month and a half of the wet season. And this is very significant because in Brazil, especially in those areas, is one of the few places in the world where we can produce 2 crops in the same area with rain-fed agriculture per year. And that's thanks to a lengthy wet season. If we have a shortened wet season, it means we will basically in those regions reduce by half our ability to produce food. This means higher food price worldwide and threatened food security. For instance, this very year, as we talked, we are living through a historical long dry season, and it's very unlikely that we are going to have a good crop mostly in the center-east, so the states of Mato Grosso amongst others. So it's already hitting our door. It's not about modeling the future. It's not about the prediction of a bad future. It is our present. And the only way we can deal with that is to work together so that we can strengthen our policies, we can put together traceability systems, so that we can make sure that our production is follow the legislation. Also, we have traders and buyers in Brazil, in China, in Europe, the world, right? That happens us that we work together with in order to deliver the climate goals that we all need. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Hani. And also our thanks to the above opening speakers. And now we are moved to the next session. It's about keynote speech. So the first speaker is Dr. Barbara Bonfim, the carbon markets and the nature-based solutions specialist at WWF Brazil. She will introduce us the Amazon Prefit report. Let's welcome.
Dear colleagues, ni hao. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm going to talk about why deforestation and conversion-free commodities are critical for a 1.5-degree pathway, showing WWF preliminary findings on the Amazon footprint. So, as we already heard from Kirsten, the global food system is responsible for 1/3 of total greenhouse gas emissions. So when we think about the 1.5 degrees Celsius goal, it is critical to consider global food security. And this goal is very challenging. So if we are to meet this goal, we need to reduce the food system emissions by 80% while we feed a growing population. Soy, cattle, and palm oil alone represent up to half of total agricultural greenhouse gas emissions. And this is largely driven by deforestation and conversion of ecosystems. Next, please. So here, you're going to see some output from the Global Climate Model Image and IPCC-aligned accounting methods, where WWF modeled the effects of different mitigation actions for the soy, cattle, and palm oil supply chain of the sector's target, 1.5-degree target. So on the y-axis here, you see the kilograms of CO2 equivalents per kilogram of weight of soy. In this case, you're going to see for soy. And over time, between 2023 and 2048. So the findings show that this 1.5-degree target cannot be reached without rapidly eliminating deforestation and non-forest ecosystem conversion. In terms of supply chains, this means using a cutoff date of 2020, which defines the full extent of ecosystem that needs to be protected by the policy, and the target date of 2025 for when the supply chain is fully compliant with eliminating deforestation and conversion according to the cutoff date. If later cutoff dates and target dates are used, the 1.5-degree target is unreachable, and emission reduction remains close to the business-as-usual scenario. The impact of this soy footprint goes beyond, and it directly impacts the footprint of animals that eat soy. big differences in feed are actually magnified for animals like chickens and pigs because they eat multiple kilograms of feed for each kilogram of meat produced. Next slide. So the big differences in the business as usual and deforestation and conversion-free soy are already reflected in the greenhouse gas footprint of the food we eat. And here we see 2 plates of food. It's the same food, but you can see different numbers, right? And I'm gonna explain. These 2 plates show data from real farms. The farms that have the worst performance, the ones on your left, the ones where you see the higher numbers, they have deforestation included in their produce, right? And then the impact is 10 times higher than the ones here on your right that are not associated with deforestation and conversion. So we need this strong policy chain action to shift from the high impact to the low impact plate. Next, please. So among the singular factors in each region, agriculture expansion and mining are relevant contributors to this issue. Over 37 million hectares, the size of Norway, have been converted in the Amazon biome, which has released over 22 gigatons of CO2 equivalent into the atmosphere, highlighting that cattle ranching and soybean are the most common land uses after conversion, concentrated not only in Brazil, but also in Bolivia, Colombia, and Peru. Gold mining is also becoming an increasing issue, not only in terms of the area, but also due to the illegal, social, and biological impacts in the biome. But each country has unique underlying causes connected to conversion, along with distinct commodity share and trends. So colleagues, thank you very much for your attention. Thanks.
Thank you, Barbara, for your specific introduction about DCF. And we also made some contributions and actions in China. So next speaker, let's welcome Mr. Chen Wei, the Executive Vice President and the Secretary General from China Meat Association. And he will bring us some insights on China actions on DCF beef sourcing. So let's welcome Mr. Chen.
好，女士们、先生们，大家下午好！非常高兴啊，今天在这里与大家共同交流这个中国在行动零混凝这个牛肉的采购这个相关的一些措施。那中国呢是肉类生产大国，我们肉类产量第一，我们的消费量第一，同时呢我们的贸易量也是第一。另外呢，我认为中国呢可能还有很多声音说，因为中国人吃肉吃多了，对环境造成了很多的影响。我们现在呢，我感觉我们中国人吃肉呢，除了我们吃肉以外，我们更多的一个消费习惯是肉类的这个畜禽的副产品。那实际上我们中国人在肉类消费方面，为我们全球的肉类的利用率，应该是我们做出了巨大贡献。啊，我们想不会因为一个副产品去多养一头猪或多宰一头牛。啊，另外我们和世界自然基金会已经开展了有10几年的相关的合作。那么我们在针对3个方面开展了相关工作。第一呢，我们是在中国肉类的全行业，我们提出了绿色贸易的倡议，啊，我们也得到了我们全国这个中国的肉类企业的相应的这种反应和支持。另外呢，我们专门制定了绿色贸易规范，我想这也是全球肉类方面的第一个针对肉类贸易方面的绿色规范。同时呢，我们还制定了相关的验证体系。以保证呢这一工作能够具体落实。第3个呢，我们就是专门针对这个绿色贸易，针对消费者进行了相关宣传。那我们通过我们的媒体平台，通过我们的中国肉协会的我们自己的媒体，包括中国的相关的主流媒体，对消费者提出了绿色贸易的相关的这种知识的传播。我们也希望我们的消费者能够认识到，他们采购对于绿色贸易的这种真正落地是起到决定作用。那么当然我想我们绿色贸易的发展还需要很多方面的工作给予支持和配合，特别是政府。我想呢，我们也呼吁全球各国的政府能够针对我们绿色贸易，在减税、财政补贴等等方面给予更多的这种财政的激励政策。另外，我们想开展国际合作也是非常必要的。所以会后呢，一会儿我们还会跟巴西等等主要 肉类出口国家进行相关的这种交流。我想我们在标准方面和技术方面这种开展的一些合作，对于我们肉类贸易的畅通和可持续发展会有更有力的保障。第三呢，我想就是我们在这个在我们政策的相关的这种落地方面，我们还希望有更多的社会力量能够给予这个更多的支持，以保证我们这个有足够的资源，保证机制这个监督机制的落地和执行相关的这些标准。最后呢，我想让我们大家携起手来，共同为我们的美丽家园贡献我们自己的力量。谢谢大家。
And thank you, Mr. Chen, for your speaking. And you give us a specific introduction of 3 main actions that you made in the collaboration on DCF beef sourcing. And next, we will have Ms. Chen Ying. She is the China Chamber of Commerce of Import and Export of Foodstuffs, Native Produce and Animal Byproducts, CFNA. She will give us a speech on China actions on DCF soil sourcing. Let's welcome Ms. Chen.
Distinguished Chief General of Zhoufei, and ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Chen Ying. I'm from the China Chamber of Commerce. Our Chamber of Commerce is the largest agriculture association in China. And up to now, we have over 5,000 members. And we belong to the Ministry of Commerce. We have the good partner of the WWF in China. Over the past 10 years, we do a lot of things. And we may pay attention to the palm oil. And we have a good chief on this respect. And this year, we have over 300 members to join the RSPO. And last year, China imported the RSPO certificate palm oil, 500,000 metric tons. I think it's a big gap. And in these recent 2 years, we joined hands with the WWF in China. We shift our focus on protecting the Amazon and rainforest and focus on China's soybean industry. From this screen, you will see that China import soybean increased in recent years, and China became the world's largest importer of the soybean. Brazil accounts for 60% of China's total import. And last year, we founded the Agriculture Sustainable Committee, and we would like to join hands the WWF and another NGOs to result the sustainable of the things in China. And as you know that in recent 2 years, and we joint hand with the WWF in China, we co-authorities the Sustainable Soybean Opportunity and Challenges reports and AFI adaptation study. Last month, we also hold a seminar to result and communicate how to protect the forest in Brazil. And I think that next step, China, WWF, and CFNA will do a lot of things. I could not say the details, but I think that on the next COP, we wrote the report we have done on to protect the rainforest. But finally, I could give the recommendation. First, for the Brazil, I think that Brazil should take steps to boost soybean production and explore the possibility and potential sustainable trade in zero deforestation soybean with China. For China, multi-sectoral collaboration with the countries around the world should be carried out to strengthen the globalization and diversify the cooperation in international trade of agricultural products. enhance the resilience of the China's agriculture supply chain and optimize of the dialogue environment for the sustainable trade. China and Brazil agriculture sustainable agriculture cooperation platform we think should be built to strengthen the policy and technical exchange and cooperations and coordinate mutual objective development to prove the intelligent level of the supply chain and ensure that the supply chain should be certified, traceable, and transparency. That's all. Thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you, Madam Chen. And you give us a very good view of the cooperation between CFNA and the WWF on DCF soil sourcing. Thank you so much. And thank you for the above keynote speakers. We are just on time. So let's move to the next session, will be the panel discussion of this meeting. And I will give the floor to my colleague, Simona Wang. She is the Senior Program Officer from WWF China, and she will be the panel moderator. And our pleasure also to have Mr. Paulo Pines, the Global Sustainability Lead of Mafric, and Lei Hongpeng, the Global Director, Climate of Children's Investment Fund Foundation, CIFF. Let's welcome the panelists on the stage.
Okay, so thank you so much for both your very expertise in your industries. Colleague, come to our panel discussion. I'm very glad to moderate this panel with you all. And because we now have some buffer time, so maybe we are very lucky to ask 2 questions for each of you now. So can I ask the first question, start from Paulo? Okay. Okay, Paulo, your question is how to support more proactive engagement of different stakeholders in this green value chain journey? This is the first question. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you for the invitation. I'd like to thank WWF. It's a really pleasure to be here. And China is a big partner from Marfrig. Most beef that we export to China. It's important to mention that is a DCF beef exported to China, just because our commitment is under the zero deforestation, zero conversion production in Brazil. So to do that, I believe that the engagement is a very important issue to be addressed in Brazil. First of all, I think that when we are talking about a DCF production, it is important to keep in mind that we need to support producers on the ground. Brazil has 2.5 million beef producers or ranchers that produce cattle. Most of them, about 7%, is smallholders, small producers. They producers don't have enough technology, technical assistance to be supported in a sustainable way to produce cattle. So the big challenge is how to do that. To do that, we have and we need financial resources to transform this production. And now what we are doing in Marfrig is to recognize this big challenge, and we have been dialoguing with the government and financial partners to support especially the small producers, just because small producers usually are the indirect suppliers, just because most of them are established in a cattle, actually in a calves production, the first phase of the cattle production. So we have to provide for them how to intensify the pastures, how to improve genetics, to reduce the time of the cattle is ready to be slaughtered. So we have significant gas emissions reduction. How to integrate the cattle production with other agriculture, such as the systems crop, forest, and cattle production. We have been working with banks to provide the financing enough to do that. On the other hand, we have to work to have all the production traced. It is important to be a good level of transparency. And when we export for China, for example, we have to prove that this production is free of deforestation, as we have to prove the goods and food security or food sanity. So we believe that we need to, for the engagement of the producers, we have to engage government and especially the way to finance the transformation. So that's what we are doing right now.
Okay, thank you so much, Paulo. And the same question for Hong Peng. Should I repeat the question?
Yes.
Okay, the first question is how to support more proactive engagement of different stakeholders in this green value chain journey.
Okay. Firstly, I want to say I feel really excited to see what's happening today. I remember Anatoly was not available today, but I've been discussing with her in the recent years to say, oh, actually there are many interests from both countries to have this kind of dialogue collaboration. And she was asking me, yes, we discussed several times what the specific thing we can do. I think today is a good example to show we are organizing dialogues. This is really important. If we see something we all agree is very helpful, then let's just do it. So I'm so happy to say, in the reality, we all know if you are from China, the flight to Asian countries normally take 4 to 8 hours, let's say. If you go to Europe or the US, it's probably 10 to 12 hours. But we all know if you go to Brazil, that's literally 24 hours. You might have to transfer from somewhere. It's not easy, but fantastic. We can see our two countries are really working together, as many speakers already mentioned. I want to say, actually, there are many opportunities. For example, in COP26, there was a leaders' declaration on forest. And this COP, we also heard the declaration on food and agriculture. So at a multilateral level, there are good ambition already there. For bilateral agreement, in the Brazil-China joint statement on climate, there are many actions identified, and also even recently in the U.S.-China bilateral climate agreement, this is also one area to cover. I think most important thing is President Lula has the determination to address climate, to protect forest. I'm sure there's no any people in the world, who have more interest to protect their homeland. That's definitely Brazilian people. So I think there are many opportunities for us to better understand each other. I think we heard a lot from all the speakers. I think we could potentially identify very specific areas to really organize a structured dialogue to find the common ground to really move forward, particularly to connect to the multilateral process, which we all know Brazil will be hosting G20, and 2 years later will be hosting COP30. All this bilateral discussion will be very likely to be integrated to the multilateral process, which will be a great example to be demonstrated for the global audience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hong Peng. Okay, so next we will have our second question. Okay, start from Paulo firstly. Okay, the second question is, what do you think are the opportunities for promoting DCF commodity work now?
Oh, I believe that it's totally possible to do that in Brazil. So we are doing now. Our supply chain is under this commitment, zero deforestation. So, but to do that, first of all, once again, it is important to have mechanisms and instruments to trace and to monitor the whole supply chain, direct and indirect suppliers. On the other hand, we have a public policy to do that as a mandatory issue in Brazil. So we have the conditions, we have the technology, we have the instruments to do that, but we have to involve the whole sector, and we have to involve the government sector to provide the conditions to do that in Brazil. So only Marfrig's doing this is not enough, for sure. So we have 30,000 direct and indirect suppliers monitored today, but it is not enough. We have 2.5 million producers in Brazil. Most of them in Cerrado and Amazonia. 80% of the cattle production in Brazil are in these two biomes. So, but it's possible. And once again, we have to provide the conditions to do that for the formal producers to engage, to implement a sustainable way with technology and technical assistance on one hand, and on the other hand, we have to combat, we have to implement the forest code. It's a first phase to do that, and then we have to provide the conditions to achieve a DCF production. But it is possible to do that, but we have to engage financial sector to finance the transformations. It's difficult to have or to see banks in the panels like this, and we depend on the development of new financial instruments to finance the transformation in Brazil. So, but it is possible to have a cattle or soy or other commodities under a DCF commitment or DCF production. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your sharing, and it's your turn, Hong Pong.
Thank you. I really echoed what you just said. Maybe a few other areas I think we could do more. The first one, as I just mentioned, I think with Brazil hosting G20 and the COP30, is a good opportunity to leverage more emerging economies' interest to further increase the global ambition, and also to really see China's interest on further, support the global south on clean transition. So that's a global ambition one. Another area I think it's really important to engage all the stakeholders. We heard from speakers, just now, from both production, consumption side, but also in the middle of the value chain. Actually, basically all the value chain stakeholders we need to involve for the standard setting, for policy making, etc. Another area I think is really, this is something quite complicated. I would say we need to involve all the market players to really try innovation, to really demonstrate some helpful practices. Lastly, I want to echo you just said. I think finance, because the finance institutions anyway are really managing all the risks, with our global, agenda. I think it would be good opportunity to leverage the financial institutions to be part of this effort. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you very much for your valuable and impressive sharing today. I think that's all for our panel discussion today. Okay, so thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, hi Michelle. Okay, I give back the floor to you.
Okay, thank you, the panel speakers and the moderator. And now we are stepping into our last part of today's meeting. Will be go to the conclusion session. And first, let's invite Mr. Zhou Fei, the Chief Program Officer from WWF China. Let's welcome Mr. Zhou.
非常感谢今天各位嘉宾的 光临和分享。12月1号的时候，在 COP28 上，有134个国家签署了关于韧性粮食系统、可持续农业及气候行动的阿联酋宣言，承诺到2025年将农业和粮食系统纳入各国各自国家的气候行动，这是一个令人鼓舞的重大的进展。那么，包括中国、巴西、欧盟和美国等粮食系统温室气体排放最高的缔约方都签署了这个宣言。科学已经清楚地表明，如果没有更雄心勃勃、全面和公开的粮食气候行动，我们将无法实现巴黎协定的任何长期目标。但是令人感到遗憾的是，在有关磋商中，关于农业和粮食安全联合工作的谈判未能取得任何协议，粮食系统目前被排除在全球盘点之外。有关谈判不能对科学和这个问题的紧迫性充耳不闻。今天我们刚才听到巴西同事介绍了 WWF 全球亚马逊足迹的报告，我们看到了中国可以在消除亚马逊毁林的进程中发挥很突出的作用。在2020年的时候，30%的亚马逊国际足迹是来源于中国的。此外 ，WWF 的另外一份报告，这个报告的题目叫《2023年森林路径报告》。这个报告强调了有四种大宗商品：橄榄油、大豆、cocoa 和咖啡。在它的强调了它们的生态系统转换和土地覆盖后嵌入的温室气体。这些被嵌入的温室气体的排放量最大的进口国是中国，占68%，和欧盟占27%。与消除化石原料不同，我们无法消除粮食系统。到2050年，全世界需要养活100亿的人，这是人类面临的最大的挑战之一。从嘉宾刚才介绍的情况，我们看出，在当前的形势下，软性商品的价值链绿色化是非常重要的。我们必须建立一个具有包容性和多样性的国际合作机制，使生产国和消费国之间能够开展合作和对话。中国和巴西作为关键的软性商品的主要进口国、消费国和生产国，在出口国在全球软性商品价值链中具有举足轻重的作用，在推动全球的价值链发生积极变化有不可忽视的影响力。全球价值链绿色化也符合中国和巴西两国的切身利益，与中国的生态文明建设理念是一致的，有利于保证价值链中的供应安全、生态安全还有市场安全。两国的合作可以为全球森林等包括栖息地的保护和恢复，减少因毁林等土地用途变化所带来的温室气体排放，将做出巨大的贡献。在过去几年里，我们中国办公室和巴西一直在通力合作，以产地和市场两端互相连通，从企业实践、政策倡导、绿色金融以及可持续消费等多角度，促进了大豆、牛肉等商品的绿色价值链的转型。我们共同促进了多轮中国、巴西可持续牛肉和大豆的双边企业对话，从机制、技术、金融合作等角度支持了两国的企业开展转型和试点工作。就在刚刚过去的10月份的时候，我们巴西的同事来到中国，在北京我们共同举办了可持续牛肉和大豆的追溯体系的研讨会，希望以更加有落实性的解决方案助力整个进程。2024年，我们将组织中国和巴西之间的双边考察，也欢迎我们的各位伙伴可以去参加。今天有来自两国政府的，还有合作方的 代表，你们提出了非常好的意见，也带来很多期许。我们向全世界转达了中国和巴西的声音，也期待着未来通过更多的对话和行动，树立全球绿色价值链的示范。希望我们的合作能够成为南南合作的典范，为应对气候变化能做出更大的贡献。谢谢大家。
Thanks, Mr. Zhou. And finally, let's welcome Mr. Mauricio Wojciech, the CEO of WWF Brazil, to give us the closing remark. Let's welcome.
Thank you. Thank you all. And first of all, I want to echo our colleague from CIF and say that I want to celebrate this dialogue. I think it's so important that the two countries, representatives from private sector, representatives from the government, are now in the same room discussing how to promote and how to advance on DCF supply chains. I think this is quite a milestone. It's quite a historic moment. And we from WWF are fully committed to keep working to foster this dialogue and to promote even more. And I'm sure there will be now, I was super happy to learn that there will be this conversation, the high officials conversation between China and Brazil. And I also want to take the opportunity to invite everyone from China at some point to go to Brazil and to learn about Cerrado, about the Amazon, about supply chains in Brazil. I think that's extremely important. I want also to recognize the enormous potential of this South-South collaboration. So this is working together and listening from the Chinese government official words like we need to work together on this journey on a green market. I think this is extremely important. So this is a journey that we need to move from, just private sector commitments, just policy, and move into action. And to go to this green market is action that we need. And by this dialogue, the intention is really to promote action and to clean up the supply chain from deforestation of natural habitats. I also want to recognize the risk of no action. And I think that was mentioned in some of the speakers as well. The risk of no action being a big risk for the ecosystems, both in Brazil, so both Cerrado, but the Amazon are reaching to tipping points, to their limit. If we keep the conversion at the pace it's happening, there'll be major problems, be on climate change or even on food production, right? So I think there is an issue also on the market itself, as Raoni Rajão put that very clear. If we keep doing business as usual, we may reduce productivity, we may increase the price of food, and that will end up also becoming potentially a food security issue for China. So I think it's very important that we recognize the risk of no action and that we cannot wait anymore to do this work. I think it's true that China has a big responsibility as a country, being the major importer of commodities coming from Brazil that are linked to deforestation, as well as Brazil has a big responsibility. The companies, the government, civil society, to promote all the conditions that are needed for zero deforestation. And I think one of the key conditions has to do with traceability mechanism. And this is the best example of one thing that there's responsibility spread all over. So that is, as Paulo said, responsibility on traceability that is in the hands of the government, and Raoni Rajão is one of the government officials that is very connected to this. The companies to implement traceability, the NGOs also participating in the dialogue to push the bar high to make sure that any traceability system is implemented, is high level, is integrity is assured, and also from China to request this kind of traceability to make sure the commodities that are being imported are not coming from deforestation in Brazil. So this recognition of two sides, high responsibility, I think is a critical starting point for this dialogue. The difference between now, the moment we are now, and let's say 2 or 3 years ago, is that now it's possible for Chinese companies to choose DCF soy or DCF beef. This is a new thing. Probably 2 years ago, we wouldn't have a Paulo Pianese here saying we can deliver DCF beef. So there is a change now. And by choosing DCF commodities from Brazil, Chinese companies will give a very strong message to the market that this is the way, and including to the Brazilian exporters, that this is the way, that this is how China wants to approach the market. So I think it's very important we start doing this and talking about this. And probably a lot of the market, or a part of the market, might be already DCF, but we need to talk more about this, create publicity, visibility of this in the market to potentialize this strong message that is needed to the market. So once again, thank you all. Thanks very much for the speakers. And let's keep on this dialogue. Thank WWF China, WWF Brazil are working very close, and we're committed to keep this work and working with everyone who wants to move in this journey to DCF supply chains. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Maurizio. And thank you for all the speakers who have shared their knowledge and experience with our guidance from all over the world today. And I think to achieve the green value chain needs the global collaboration and joint efforts. So we are looking forward to keeping communication with you all in the future. And also thanks again to all the attendees from all over the world coming to us today. And enjoy rest of your stay here in Dubai. Thank you. And the last